Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Now then, Warhammer Dark Omen, one of my favourite PC games of all time. I haven't been able to play it for a few years now. It's very difficult to get it running on modern PCs due to a variety of technical issues. However, the story in Warhammer Dark Omen has quite a few parallels with the end times. It involves the von Carstein family and necromancers, and they're all trying to raise Nagash from the dead. Spoiler in case you haven't played it. But it was always one of my favourite games, and most of the characters and units within the game were based on miniatures of the time period. So I always wanted to build an army around it, but it was always difficult because the rules didn't really allow you to just take a mishmash mercenary army of everything. During most of Warhammer Fantasy, you haven't been able to do that. There were periods you had Dogs of War and so on, but they were even specific units. However, now with the Age of Sigmar, in addition to obviously going for a nice Sigmarine, as people are calling them, army, like everyone is, thought it'd be nice as a little side project to maybe finally attempt to get my Warhammer Dark Omen army off the ground after all these years. The problem is, I have a bit of trouble identifying which models some of the units are based on, and some of them are notoriously difficult to find as well. Some of them are pretty easy. You'll see when I get to some of the units that I actually have models I can use already. So this is really an outcry for help in the community. For a start, if you can identify what the models are based on, and you can let me know the name of the model, or maybe even better, some kind of model code that would be easy to Google to find it. Or, absolutely perfect would be if you actually have one of those out there and you want to do me a sweet deal for it. So first things first, we have the leader of the army, Commander Morgan Bernhardt. You can see his little portrait there. I'm on the kind of unofficial Dark Omen fan site here at the moment. So any cavalry model with a face that looks like that would be perfect. You can see him within the unit there. He's on a white horse and he has his little cloak on his back there, which differentiates him from the rest of the unit. And of course, the rest of his cavalry look like this here. Now that armor, I can't recall any specific cavalry models that look exactly like that in the history of Warhammer Fantasy. So if anyone out there would like to help me identify those, that would be nice. And if they don't exist, anything that you know that looks very similar would be nice as well. So moving on to the next unit. We have the infantry. These are just the basic swordsmen in the game. These look fairly generic, but if there were some specific fantasy models that these were modeled after, that would be nice to know. Very nice little helmet they have there. I quite like their armor in general, actually. I like the whole green and white shield thing as well. I did sort of rip that off with my Vampire Count's army a little bit. The green's a bit darker. So with those, you can see that it shows you how many are generally in the unit. Looks like there's 20 there. So I would try my best to match how many were in the actual unit in the game, if possible. Moving on to the crossbowmen. Again, I'm not sure exactly which models these were based on, but they don't look too extravagant. Just fairly standard stuff. No particular armor to speak of. The older GW models did tend to have a lot more swords and accessories and pouches dangling off them. So I suspect most of these are based on those quite old models. Some of them are clearly based on plastics, which we'll get to in a minute. Next, cannon, pretty standard. I'm sure there's plenty of cannons that look exactly like that out there. Any Empire cannon of the past would probably do for that. Next, Carlson's cavalry. Now, these guys, they have a very specific look to them. And I can only imagine that these are based on a particular unit as well, but I'm not aware of what it is. They look unique enough so someone out there must know. I'm thinking some of you old-timers probably know all this. By the way, the reason this video doesn't have live comments is because I want any information that people give me to be there permanently, so I can keep checking on it later. So, yeah, you can see how they're supposed to look. This guy, this is definitely one that I want. This was one of the more memorable characters in the game, Mr. Luther Flamestrike. And there are some Bright Wizard models out there, but I haven't found one in my quest so far that has a wavy sword like that and also has a beard that's that size. Often the bright wizards have really enormous, almost dwarf slayer-like beards, which is not what's going on with this guy at all. So if anyone knows of a model that very closely resembles him, that'd be very nice to know. Obviously, you can see he's got a really long cloak there with flames on it. And this kind of headdress area. There are a few models that have similar to that. I haven't found one that matches it perfectly yet. Next, we have just your basic bowman. I'm sure there are some old Empire bowmen that those are closely linked to. So if anyone wants to give me a helping hand looking for those as well. These ones, I'm pretty sure the Empire plastic Halberdiers of a while ago very, very closely resemble these. But if you know of any metal ones that look even more like them than they do, then I'd appreciate if you would let me know. But they do very much look like the plastic ones to me. You can see with like the frilly sleeves and everything. I've even seen people paint them in these colors, I think. So they should be easy to source. Next, now the Dwarf Warriors, you can see the art there. It looks very much like the old school, the first ever plastic dwarves they did, I believe, where they were all a single pose. And I've got a huge box of those, so I don't need to find any of them. I've already got plenty, more than enough for a unit. And they're even unpainted as well, and I think I can pretty easily slide them off their square bases onto rounds. So that'll be nice. Next, Flagellants. Now, I'm pretty sure these look like the old metal Flagellants, and there are only 9 in the unit there, so that shouldn't be too difficult to find. The guy in the portrait there doesn't actually look too much like the one in the art there, lacking a bit of the hair. Imperial greatswords, yeah, they're going to be really easy to find, aren't they? Very iconic look they have. I'm not sure whether these would be metal or plastic, though, the ones that most closely resemble them. I would imagine when this game came out, pretty much everything would have been metal apart from the single pose boxes. So I don't know if Empire greatswords actually had a plastic box at that point or not. So again, any help would be appreciated. Imperial Mortar. Now, to my eye, this looks like the old metal mortar. So that shouldn't be too difficult to track down. But if anyone has one, let me know. Metal steam tank. Now, this is fairly difficult to find. I've looked a few times on eBay over the years, and I haven't found one. So if anyone knows where I can get one of these bad boys, or if anyone has one they want to part with for a reasonable price, let me know. Easy to identify, though. It's one of the more fun units in the game because it is virtually impenetrable. You only get it towards the end of the game, though. It would be a tad unfair if you were just crushing all the goblin archers with it early on in the game. Next, Outlaw Infantry. Now, I'm not sure whether these would have just been completely made up for the game or not, but they look fairly unique. I'm not sure if it's just the eye patch that makes them look like outlaws, but the whole outfit does kind of give that outlaw vibe, doesn't it? So quite a few of those. Obviously, I don't need to get all of these units, and I don't need to get them all immediately. It's going to be an ongoing project for a while, I imagine, but it'll be nice to round up as many of them as possible. Next, ogres. Only need 3 of these. I do remember a specific ogre that looks a lot like that in the old Citadel range. A lot like that guy. So if I could get a few of those, that'd be very nice. Next, an Ice Mage. I always preferred the Bright Wizard to this guy in the game, just because I think you get the Bright Wizard first, and then you got this guy later on, and it just felt like he was a kind of a cheap imitation of the Bright Wizard, but his spells were just white instead of red and yellow. But again, no idea what model that would be based on, so any help would be appreciated. Ragnar's Wolves, a cavalry unit, look very Viking and snow-like with their fur cloaks on the white horses. Well, he's got a white horse. They have the brown ones. It's very distinctive. with the axes on Cavalry. So if they are based on a model, I imagine someone knows who they are. Wood Elf Glade Guard. Well, that's it. It's obvious enough, isn't it? Pretty sure they're just based on a very specific time period of Glade Guard. Wood Elf Archers. Now, I'm not sure when this was made they had the plastic box set of Wood Elf Archers available at the time or not. I'm sure it would have been around the same time, and the ones in the back rank especially there do look like them. The ones at the front look a little bit more active, like they're actually firing their bows, so I'm not sure whether they would have been based on metal Wood Elf Archers. Knights of the Realm. Yeah, this is easy enough. Obviously, when they brought out the Bretonnians with the... They were in the box with the lizard men, weren't they, in the starter set? So obviously, Knights of the Realm, I'm pretty sure these were in plastic. So if I could get a lot of those, that'd be quite nice. These didn't play a huge role in the game, but if I'm looking to ever complete the army, it would be nice to get all of the units, obviously. Outlaw Pistoliers. Now, I know for a fact that there were Pistoliers in the Empire army, but I'm not sure whether they actually looked like this. The ones I can remember the guys on horseback with guns in the Empire army. I can remember the ones that had the kind of mini, almost chain gun like the Outriders, I think they were called, something like that. Pistoliers, I remember them existing. I'm not sure if they look like this or not in the time period I'm thinking of. So again, any help would be appreciated. Grail Knights. Yeah, they're going to be easy enough to find, I think. All Bretonnian models. And finally, a tree man. You can see there the little sprite that he looks just like the old metal tree man that was incredibly heavy and dangerous if you were to hurl it at your opponent across the table, because it was just a big fat chunk of metal made to resemble wood. So that is all the units on the good guy side in Dark Omen anyway. Not particularly interested in the green skins or the undead, because they weren't quite as characterful and you didn't actually play as them in the single player campaign, so obviously that adds something to it. So I think this would be a really fun project if I can paint them up in exactly the same manner as they're coloured in the game and try and get their banners to look authentic as well. I may need to get some help from someone with that, because I'm not exactly a master of freehand. But the closer I can get, the better. I've seen a couple of people that have done projects based on this army in the past for Warhammer Fantasy. Can't find any of them currently, but I've seen them out there. So I know I'm not going to be the first to attempt this, but maybe the first and only person to attempt it for Age of Sigmar. And I think it's going to be a very exciting project, and I'll keep you up to date. The first thing I'm probably going to do is the dwarf units, since I already have them. So if anyone has any information that could lead to the whereabouts of some of the other units becoming known to me, then please make yourself known in the comments. If you have any of these models that represent these units, or anything that comes pretty damn close, then let me know. Maybe we can arrange a pretty sweet deal that'll be beneficial to both parties. And also, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments as well. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for now. So I just wanted to get that out there, let you know what I'm going to be doing, looking for some help from the public. And I'll catch you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Ta-ta!